Is your home an ADT home? If not, listen up, gang. You need to get ADT to help protect against break-ins, fire, and even carbon monoxide. And now, for a limited time, get ADT's lowest rate, starting at just $28.99 a month from the most trusted name in home security. That's just $1 a day. You spend way more than $1 on your morning coffee. ADT is the first security company to help keep you safe at home and when you're on the go with the new ADT Go app. ADT Go has some great features like family locator, private messaging, automatic check-ins, and safe driving reports. It even includes an SOS button with 24/7 emergency response. And if you need more of a reason to buy, you get ADT Go with a purchase of any security system. Seriously, guys, it's a great deal. Protect yourself and your family right now. Go to ADT.com/podcast to take advantage of ADT's lowest rate. ADT, tested, trusted, proven with 36-month monitoring contract. Early termination and installation fees apply. Excludes taxes and fees. Applies to traditional services only. Certain markets excluded. Licenses available at ADT.com.
Delta strives to take the stress out of travel so you can focus on what comes next. And Delta Comfort Plus can help. With Sky Priority boarding, extra legroom, and a wide selection of unlimited complimentary snacks, you can arrive refreshed, ready to take on the world.
Listen up, people. We got a big favor to ask, and we promise it won't take too much of your time. You know our show's supported by some fantastic sponsors, right? Well, we'd love to hear your feedback. Head to ESPNpodcaststudy.com and fill out a short, anonymous survey. That's it. We swear. No more. Again, that's ESPNpodcaststudy.com.
This is the best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2 and the ESPN app. Glad you're with us. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike Golic, Trey Wingo here, as we are officially now ensconced in full LeBron watch. We have officially gotten here, Mike, because the NBA regular season awards finally happened. Last night,
yes.
7 months after the regular season, I believe, was over. So now we're steamrolling toward that deadline where by Friday we will know one way or the other what's going on with this guy.
From the beaches of LA to Houston, from Boston to the Bay, to Cleveland. This is LeBron Watch.
We're in because we got to know by Friday.
Absolutely so wrong. I'm checking out a lot of the red carpet from last night. Some traditional tuxedos and then some non-traditional stuff out there as well. James Harden had a really it was a pretty cool outfit, quite honestly, and he was obviously the star of the night, as we'll get into with the MVP award. But yeah, we're going to hear from Brian Windhorst today, one of our guests, about the timeline for LeBron and choosing this time.
Apparently it's speeding up, Michael.
We had a TV show one time. We had a magazine another time on the decision. I think this is going to be pretty low key.
Yeah.
I think some things come with age.
Yes, exactly.
Where you get a little older and you're like, all right, not sure why I did all that way back when.
I'll let you know.
I'll
fire off a text.
With age comes a little bit of wisdom. You do things a little bit differently and say, okay, we'll let y'all know a little sooner rather than later this time around, which is probably good for the teams that are going after him that aren't going to get him. You can move on. Bad for shows like ours that could use the content.
Oh, listen, we're all about it. we want to drink it in. There's no question about that. So, again, here's what we got coming up a little later on. You said Brian Windhorst will join us today. Maybe we'll spin the wheel with Brian, see what he thinks about some of the cases that we have laid out audio-wise for LeBron James to go to different teams. Shaka Hislop, former World Cup goalie, will join us today. Huge day. I don't give it away, but it was a huge day and potential big moves in the standings in our World Cup fantasy draft.
Whatever.
And then Florida man Jeff Darlington will join us in the 8 o'clock hour East Coast time as he tries to figure out what exactly is going on with this Julian Edelman appeal. Plus, Granddaddy Archie Manning will join us. The hierarchy, the patriarch of the Manning family as the Manning Passing Academy.
Yeah, that's always a monster weekend, a monster thing for the Manning family and what they do in the big time college quarterbacks that go down there for it. So haven't spoken to him in a while. It'd be good to talk to him as his son's all-time passing yardage record is going to get passed probably around game 5 or so this year.
Potentially
with Drew
game
Brees
5 on Monday Night Football. And by the way, if you don't like the Patriots dynasty, thank Archie Manning, because his son saved you from 5 more Super Bowl rings.
How
the
about
Patriots. They could have one for each thumb were it not for the Manning offspring. And then we'll have Bruce Arena, former U.S. men's national team manager, in to talk about what's going on in the World Cup. And we'll see what happens with there. It has been very exciting this summer. But let's get going, as we always do, with what's trending. And we start with James Harden being named MVP. He's the third Rocket to win the MVP in the NBA, joining Hakeem and Moses Malone. The Rockets joined the Celtics 4, Lakers 4, and the 76ers 4 as the fourth franchise to boast 3 different players to win MVP.
Also, think about this. Think about the Oklahoma City Thunder. They drafted 3 MVPs.
Correct. And
James
only one
Harden
is still there.
Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing what's going on there. But Harden, everybody thought he was going to win it. So much so, LeBron wasn't even at the award ceremony last night. He took his earlier vacation because he's got that big decision coming up. So he was not at the ceremony last night. But he does win the MVP. We're going to get into some of the other awards. Rudy Gobert won Defensive Player of the Year. Lou Williams won Sixth Man again.
Yeah, again.
He won it in 2015 with Toronto. And Victor Oladipo was Most Improved. A couple other awards that we'll talk about as well.
When you look at the numbers, and you know what I've been very obvious about this.
Oh,
where
yeah.
I stand. I mean, I feel like LeBron James is being judged against himself at this point.
Oh, no, this is the
right?
Michael Jordan thing.
Yeah, I mean, look at Jay Williams tweeted out a text or tweet yesterday that said congrats, and then he listed all these stats. It didn't feel like it was congrats to James Harden. He put a point-by-point, face-by-face comparison. Points, LeBron had more. Rebounds, LeBron doubled, basically. Assists, 100 plus more. LeBron shot 54% from the floor. Harden 44.9. They both shot the same from 3. He played more minutes. He played all games, and he had 14 more triple-doubles. But again, congrats to James Harden.
Yeah. I mean, Harden led the league in scoring, so,
Yes.
a little over 30 points a game. So we knew it was going to go this way, or everybody had the thought it was going to go this way, and the thought is that it's the Michael Jordan effect. But I do think, boy, this could have been LeBron's best year. First time playing 82 games, playing all the games, obviously what he did in the postseason, how the team transformed after the trade deadline. But again, it's the Michael Jordan effect, so it doesn't shock anybody. Fans also voted for some of these awards, and the fan vote for Player of the Year was LeBron James.
Yeah, look, it's the question always becomes, what is the word MVP, or what does that acronym mean to you? Usually, it means the guy that had the best year on the best team. That's usually what it means.
A lot of times it goes down that way. Yes.
But if that V word means something to me, valuable. And I'm not saying James Harden wasn't valuable to the Rockets, but they had other people that could offset it when he had a bad night. There's no doubt in my mind that no one player brought more value to his team than LeBron James of the Cavs.
We can have a discussion on that because I go the other way. I don't put valuable on it because they always say, take him off the team. Well, take Harden off the team. Yeah. And they wouldn't have been in the conference finals.
Well, let me put it this way. I hear what you're saying, but there was a playoff game that they won by 20 points when James Harden went 3 of 18 from the floor. And LeBron James goes 3 of 18. The Cavs lose by 700 points.
I get it. I get it. They would have a lot more losses, but I go on the best player for that year.
Yeah.
And I don't look at, because you take any great player off their team, they're not going to be nearly as good as they were.
I get that, but to me, look, I just thought this was LeBron James' best year.
Yeah, well, that's tough to deny.
What he was able to do with that support. I mean, they changed that team 4 times. 4 times, and they still somehow, some way got themselves to the NBA Finals. LeBron James did for the 8th straight year. So congratulations to James Harden.
Absolutely.
Although I think LeBron was MVP. Well, in what was the other hotly contested vote, Philadelphia's Ben Simmons beat out Utah's Donovan Mitchell for Rookie of the Year in what many felt was a tightly contested event. Simmons walks away with it. Surprised?
Well, did you see the car, the van that rolled up with Donovan Mitchell?
Yeah,
said,
I don't think that's doing him any favors.
On it. Yeah, well, you know what? They were playing along with this thing. How much was people were actually playing? How much they were actually serious? Again, the whole thing of Ben Simmons missing last year, so he was still considered a rookie this year, and that kind of came up into play, talking back and forth. But Simmons wins it. You look at what Donovan Mitchell was doing in the playoffs, and you go, wow, but you can't because, it's a regular season award. So I have no problem with Simmons getting that award. And I would say, and he even in his acceptance speech was, even though with the media and others were bringing up, and quite honestly, it was Donovan Mitchell that was bringing that stuff up.
Yeah. And here's the other thing I think that sort of messed up Donovan Mitchell's argument. If he had just said, look at my numbers. I mean, look at what he was able to do.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Look at what he was able to do on this team that went into the playoffs and being the leading scorer as a rookie. I think that was a much more compelling argument for Donovan Mitchell than he's not really a rookie thing. You know what I mean? Which I thought was kind of interesting. But either way, Ben Simmons won the award and was happy to walk away with the hardware.
Yeah, for me, I'm obviously happy I won the award, so I try not to let, the media hype things up or fans or whatever it is just because I know, I'm doing what I love and I did what I could on the floor. And obviously it was enough, and that doesn't take anything away from Jason or Donovan. They had excellent, amazing, tremendous season, and what they were able to accomplish was great. I mean, if I played last year, one of them would have had it.
So again, taking nothing away from them, but I'm taking the hardware.
And talking about how, great players they were and then how the media, hyped this thing up. It was Donovan Mitchell who hyped this thing up.
Exactly right.
I didn't want to, that wasn't the spot for him to take the shot. And you look at Utah, I mean, they were very close to having the rookie of the year in Mitchell, had the defensive player of the year in Rudy Gobert. Pretty impressive. They've done.
And then the other thing we have to admit, if it was really put in the playoffs, Jason Tatum probably would have ran away with the award, right?
Jason Tatum was unbelievable in the playoffs, but again, playoffs didn't count in this.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, Ben Simmons was Rookie of the Year and favorited going into the vote, so he protected the lead. Protecting the lead is brought to you by ADT. Considering home security, consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. Visit ADT.com to learn more. All right, we continue what's trending, and it's that time for an update on the World Cup. Hey! So here's what we got. Argentina will advance to the knockout stage of the 2018 FIFA World Cup with a win over Nigeria today and a Croatia win or draw against Iceland. Now, a loss or draw would eliminate Messi and company from the competition, while it could come down to tiebreakers if both Argentina and Iceland win. So in other words, Argentina is on thin ice land.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so bad.
Well done.
That was terrible.
Meaning Messi could be done.
Correct.
I mean, it's
thank you.
Really been a struggle there for Argentina and certainly Messi. But let's not forget, because I'm not going to, because I have Nigeria in my draft.
You're not forgetting.
Nigeria, who's playing against Argentina, they advance with a win over Argentina and can even advance with a draw depending on how the Iceland-Croatia game shakes out as well. Denmark takes on France also at 10 o'clock. Denmark advances with a win or draw against France or an Australian loss or draw against Peru. France, one of my teams, is already in. Australia and Peru play at 10 o'clock. Peru is out already, as I mentioned. Australia advances with a win and a Denmark loss, and Australia must win the tiebreaker, and then Iceland and Croatia. Croatia is already through to the knockout. Iceland advances to a win against Croatia and a Nigeria loss or draw and win a tiebreaker against a couple of what is it, Argentina and Nigeria. Right. So yeah, follow that along.
Exactly.
I mean, my gosh.
Thanks for breaking that down.
Yeah, well, it's kind of my job.
Bottom line here, Bottom line is we had some controversy yesterday in both the Spain-Morocco match and the Portugal-Iran match. Video replay, basically a huge factor in both of these matches becoming draws. Spain got a late goal that was allowed because of video replay, and I think Iran was denied a goal late that allowed replay. Yeah,
and Iran had a chance to get this game to a late goal in this one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and dude went right outside the post, just missed. You mentioned Spain, though. Game tying, 1 minute into extra time, awarded by video after initial offside. They got that one right. It was initially an offside call. They looked at it, and it wasn't offside. And also for Portugal, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Right.
They went to replay on him. There was a guy trying to wall him. He got in front of him and kind of forearmed him in the face.
The face!
He thought a red card was coming for that one.
Exactly.
He ended up getting a yellow card on review after that one as well. But replay becoming very, very prominent in this World Cup.
Do you like that or do you not like it? Because to me, what I enjoy about it is it doesn't take much time. I mean, they go back, they look at it, and whether you agree with it or not, they make the decision and they move on. The exact opposite is the interminable process sometimes in the NFL.
Here's the biggest thing, though. They're replaying subjective calls.
Yes.
Where we talk about don't do that, like it went nuts in the Lakers or the Cavaliers and the Warriors on the block charge.
NBA,
Wait a minute, you're deciding whether it was a foul or not. Football, they don't do that if it was holding interference or not. This is, you look at the Neymar call, at first you call it a penalty, then you look and you say more of a flop, not a penalty. But I guess that's their way, of being able to check if somebody is flopping or not give somebody the benefit of the doubt just on the initial call. In all honesty, I haven't really decided whether I like it or not. At this point, I'm leaning toward not. Sometimes I think it can be used too much. And there was plenty of it used yesterday.
I just like the fact that they make a decision quickly.
They do. I will give them that, yeah.
Let's not stop this thing for 7 minutes and do all the other stuff. So the one thing that I think they're doing well is they go to it and they're decisive with it.
I will give them that. It doesn't take a long time. And I love how they tell you they're going to it. The ref stands there and makes like the square.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to look at a TV.
The picture box
screen.
is where my eyes will be going.
That's where I'm going right now. To your point, they do it in a timely fashion.
Yeah.
So that is good.
But more importantly, time to check the standings.
Standings are out.
Big day for me. 4 points, Mike.
Yep.
By the way, 4 points, the exact opposite way I thought I would get them. I thought for sure I'd get 3 with Spain and then maybe a draw between Saudi Arabia and Egypt. And somehow Saudi Arabia beats Egypt and Spain and Morocco are level.
5 minutes into stoppage time, Saudi Arabia gets that winning goal.
That was
saved you there. Morocco saved me a point by getting that draw with Spain where you thought you were going to get your 3. So you're winning with 30 points.
Yep.
Mike and Devin have 26. I have 25, and the staff has 20.
The staff is toast at this point.
Yeah, they absolutely.
Because you have 3 people through.
I have 3 in,
teams.
and I can possibly get Nigeria in as well, so I can get 4 in.
I have Spain and England in for sure. Mexico is not officially in, but they've got 6 points. It would be almost impossible for them not to get in. So that's 3, and I still have a chance for either Iceland or Japan to get in. So I have the potential for 4, which would be tremendous.
Yes, it
would. Meanwhile, we go from football back to American baseball, and the Yankees continue to do what the Yankees are doing. They beat the Phillies 4-2 to snap a season-long 3-game losing streak. Aaron Judge hit his 20th home run of the season, his 7th on the road, and the Yankees are now a half game up on Boston in the AL East.
We just talked about the Phillies yesterday and how well they had been playing. Now they're losing 2 in a row now after this loss, but still the Yankees are doing it with that long ball with Judge getting his 20th home run, as you mentioned, 7th on the road. We're going to be talking about this the entire time after the trade deadline. Well, we get a trade, but then just the back and forth of the Yankees and the Red Sox. So it'll be a daily thing.
It'll be a daily thing, and we'll play it all the way probably to the end of the season, where one of these two teams that's probably going to win 100 games will face a 1-game playoff to keep their postseason hopes alive. Okay, we tried to tell you not to do this yesterday. But they're doing it anyway. Laker fan Jacob Imrani told ESPN's Om Yamasuk that he bought over 40 billboards to help bring LeBron James and Paul George to Los Angeles. Armani is a longtime Lakers season ticket holder who put up 4 billboards recruiting LeBron James to the Lakers back in March. Now tells ESPN he's paid for over 40 around Los Angeles, even though LeBron has said, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Not going to help. Won't matter.
And this cost him.
Yeah.
Billboards on average cost between $5,000 and $25,000 each, depending on the location, and he put up 40.
Yeah.
You want to talk about, listen, your money.
It's disposable income, right?
Your
That's
money,
the definition of it.
Spend it how you want, but that seems like an awful waste of money.
It does.
And especially if how about if they don't come there, you've really wasted. If they do come there, you're going to take credit.
Yeah.
And say, oh, it's my billboards that did it. Yeah. When it's not. You just threw away
You just threw away cash, and congratulations to you.
There you go. Glad you have it to throw away.
Exactly. Why don't you just burn it in cigar wrappers and do it the same way? It's going to have the same effect.
Or give it to me.
There you go. Okay. Give it to you?
What?
Really? To you? Mr. Moneybags? You're 6'3", but you're 6'5" when you sit on your paycheck.
To us, then.
Okay, fine.
Give it to us.
I'm
Is that better?
Yeah,
okay.
Much
good.
better.
There you go.
Much better. Golic and Wingo presented by Progressive Insurance. Commercial insurance through Progressive protects your business and your dream. Choose from over 30 coverage options at progressivecommercial.com. So let's dive back into this NBA debate one more time here. You and I are both, well, you're okay with Harden winning the award, right?
I mean, listen, I understand it just because I've seen this happen in the past.
Yeah.
The best player in the world is LeBron James.
Yeah.
But we vote for an MVP every year. What kind of year does the person have? And usually it's the best player on the best team.
Yeah.
And the Rockets were that in the regular season. And Harden was the best player on that team in the regular season. And I lived through what went on. We both did what went on with Michael Jordan when we were saying the same thing. Michael Jordan's the best player on the planet. And he's not going to win the MVP.
Right. So he's judged against himself. Mm-hmm. I thought that he had the stronger case for being strictly on the word valuable to his team. And here's Ryan Hollins. Hot take Hollins, by the way. on my side here.
See, James Harden, I love what he did, but he didn't work in chaos. He didn't carry, literally on his shoulders, on his back, carry his team to the NBA Finals. And, of course, they weren't the number one seed. I understand. They didn't achieve what the Rockets as a team did. You want to call them the best regular season team? I'm fine with that. But as a player, James Harden did not do what LeBron James did this season.
And that convince you? Yeah, there you go.
Listen,
Get the Ryan Hollins hot take.
I agree with it.
There.
It's a regular season award, though, and they won 50 games, did Cleveland, and the Rockets won 65 games in a tougher conference over in the Western Conference. So, I mean, I get it. I understand why it went to Harden. I absolutely, even though what LeBron did, it could have been his best season because of how old he is and playing all the games and doing what he did with all the different parts he had on that team. I understand all that, but no, I don't have a problem at all that Harden gets it.
Look, I'm not going to it's not going to ruin my day that James Harden got the MVP. I just think if you look at the data empirically, I think that what LeBron was able to do with that team around him, reshaped 4 times with the things around him, I felt like he added more value than anybody ever did.
Yeah, I don't look at anything empirically because I don't really know how to.
There you go.
And then I think
you are, baby. Who you are.
The interesting thing of the night was the Dwayne Casey winning Coach of the Year.
Oh, we will get into that.
So go ahead and go celebrate with Toronto. Oh, that's right. You can't because they fired you.
Yeah, but at least the Raptors this time, because this is the second award Dwayne Casey has won. At least this time they didn't congratulate him on Twitter by saying, "Congrats, coach." No. He's not your coach anymore. You decided to fire him. But classy that you wanted to congratulate him, but you can't call him your coach because he's not your coach.
Not your coach.
Because you fired him.
You guys fired him.
It makes no sense at all.
Golic
and Wingo.
And Wingo.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. Hey, Brian, before we get to the LeBron watch, Harden won the MVP. Simmons won the Rookie of the Year. Did you think both of those were the right choices?
Yeah, that's how I voted. I had a pause. I think we talked about it.
Yeah, we did.
Because I know that LeBron historically is one of the greatest all-time players, and he's now not won an MVP in 5 years. And I don't think that that's right, but I had an MVP vote in all 5 of those years, and I don't think I voted for him. The MVP is awarded for play between October and April. And for various reasons, and I agree with those reasons, LeBron doesn't expend all of his energy in those months and doesn't always play his best in those months because he's saving it for these playoff runs. And I think it's a smart decision. But, empirically, when you look at everything, James Harden was the MVP this season. I agree with the result, even though that historically I have a hard time with it. But that's just part of the game.
As far as the look of Dwayne Casey wins the award last night for Coach of the Year, the coaches also voted him Coach of the Year, and the Toronto Raptors fired him. What does that look say to you?
Well, when I was a kid, I was growing up in the Cleveland area, and I thought the Cavs had a great coach in Lenny Wilkens, arguably one of the greatest coaches in the history of the NBA. Unfortunately, he played at a time where even though he had 3 All-Stars on his roster, Larry Nance, Brad Daugherty, and Mark Price, 3 of the greatest players the team had in their history, they happened to play in the same division as Michael Jordan. And 3 times they went into the playoffs, and 3 times Jordan sent them out. And it wasn't because Lenny Wilkens didn't know how to coach. It was just because he didn't have Michael Jordan. And I remember the Cavs fired him for no other reason than he just couldn't beat Michael Jordan, as far as I remember. I mean, I was in 8th or 9th grade when it happened. And the Cavs went for another decade without really having an opportunity to compete at the highest level, actually more than that again. So
Brian,
it reminded me of that. Dwayne Casey got fired because he happens to play in the same division or conference or whatever as LeBron James, no other reason.
Brian Windhorst with us. Brian, I want to go back to the LeBron MVP thing just for a second, and then we'll move on. Because to me, I think you could make a very compelling argument that this might have been LeBron's best season. I understand what you're saying about him sort of reserving energy in the regular season, but look at the numbers he put up and the different castmates that he put around him and what he was still able to do and be available in all 82 games and have the numbers that he put. To me, I thought this might have been the best season I've ever seen him play in the regular season.
Trey, I could show you data and some play that he did in January that was unbecoming of a player of his level. He was essentially pouting, trying to force the Cavs into trades. And, you could make a strange argument that forcing the Cavs into making trades was an effective way of leadership. It wasn't the way that you'd want to set an example. But some of the things that he did for that month or so in January were really not who he is as a player, and really were not his proudest moments, in my opinion. There were games where he let go of the rope and let it go, and you can't just ignore that. Those games happened. They were within the framework of the regular season. I understand that in the grand body of work that they were a relative blip, but they happened. And I can't, as a voter, ignore that and pretend that they didn't. James Harden was sensational on the team with the best record from October onward. And LeBron played better in the playoffs than James Harden did. Donovan Mitchell played better in the playoffs than Ben Simmons did. But when we voted in April, we had to vote on that body of work.
And again, Harden is the winner last night. We talked about some of the other winners who it was their night last night. LeBron was not there because he was on vacation, and he went on vacation earlier than he normally does. So, Brian, explain why all that is taking place.
Well, my feel, guys, and I'm going to be very careful on what I say here because there's only a couple of people in the entire LeBron universe who truly know what's going on, and those people are being very selective in how they talk. But let me just say that LeBron's schedule is planned to be a little bit earlier than it was the last two free agencies. My expectation is that he will not let it go out to July 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. Now, having said that, events could happen in the next 6-7 days that force him to push that decision back. But my understanding and my belief is that he's going to go a little quicker here. He has his reasons for doing that. But I would expect, on or around July 4th, we're going to know what LeBron's going to be doing. And last time, in 2014, he was in the Caribbean. I think he was in Nevis on July 4th. So going a little bit earlier supports my hypothesis there, and we'll see whether I'm right or wrong.
All right, Brian Windhorst joins us, our NBA insider. So, Brian, we decided this obviously is the summer of LeBron and LeBron Watch, so we like to spin the wheel to find out where he's going to be. So we want to spin the wheel, and we've had some people make some cases for certain teams, and we want to give you your thoughts on it, all right? Let's first and foremost start with what a lot of people are saying, that LeBron is going to end up in purple and gold with the Lakers.
Lakers, LA's front office can work its magic and create up to $70 million in cap space to sign both LeBron and another max free agent while keeping Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and Kyle Kuzma on the team.
How do you feel about that scenario?
I think if he selects the Lakers, he's wagering on the Lakers' history and the city of Los Angeles to help that team build into a championship contender. And that's not the worst wager in the history of the game.
Okay, now let's spin the wheel and find out that it stays where he is.
Cavaliers. Cleveland can offer more years and more dollars to LeBron than any other team, and they don't need to move anyone to do it. Plus, they have the 8th pick in the draft, which could be a trade piece or a young blue-chip prospect.
Thoughts?
I think guys, I really think when this comes down to it, LeBron's going to have to sit there and look at, do you have a better belief in Cleveland's future or the Lakers' future? That's what I think the ultimate decision is going to come down to. And I don't think the Cavs feel really good about their position. And I'm not basing that on anybody telling me. I'm basing that on their actions. Because if you look at their actions for the last 11 months, they are making decisions like they expect LeBron James to leave. And maybe that's smart. Maybe that's setting themselves up to move on and not be in the abyss. Maybe that's, stupid. Maybe they shouldn't do it that way and they should milk every last drop. But to me, the Cavs organization seems to be more prepared for LeBron to leave than many of their fans are. And I know that LeBron sees that.
Brian, is there a potential, we keep talking about multi-year deals either in Cleveland or somewhere else, that he just opts in for this year and does this all over again next year?
I think that there's a reason why he's left that option open and not declined it yet, Golic. I don't think he'll go that route because it really doesn't really change that much. For San Antonio, in my mind, there's only 5 places he can go. L.A., Cleveland, Philadelphia, San Antonio, and Houston. I think those are the 5. You may have a dark horse in there, like a Dallas or something like that, but I really think there's only 5 places for him to go. 3 of the places he can sign outright to, Philly, L.A., or Cleveland. And the only places you'd really need a trade would be Houston and San Antonio, and he would be in the same boat whether he opted in or out. He would have to force a sign-and trade as opposed to a straight-up trade if he opted in or out. So I think it makes more sense for him to be able to frame his contract. The only reason that he would opt into that contract would be because he wanted to protect his no-trade clause. He's got, no-trade clauses are very valuable in the NBA. They're hard to get. They're hard to qualify for. You have to play for the same team for 4 years to do it. And let's say he wanted to keep it. He could pick that up and then force his way. Even if he wanted to go to Los Angeles, he could force a trade there, and that would enable him to port his no trade out there. But other than that, I don't think there's a lot of functional reasons for him to pick it up at this point, and so therefore I don't think that he will.
All right, Trey, spin the wheel.
One more time, Brian. Here we go.
All right.
76ers. Philly already has maybe the most intriguing young core in the NBA with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, and the Sixers could add LeBron without losing any major contributions from its 52-win team this past season.
How intriguing.
See, I disagree with that. I think that they could add LeBron and they potentially would lose a lot because they would lose J.J. Redick, who's their best shooter. And I don't think Philadelphia is a great fit. Because if you play with LeBron, you need to be able to shoot, and you need to be able to play off the ball. And they have a couple of guys, their 2 number 1 overall draft picks the last 2 years, that can't shoot and need the ball. That's Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons. I don't know how those 2 are going to play together long term. The second thing that's the issue is that if Joel Embiid was to play with LeBron James, he would have to significantly change his game. LeBron needs to have space to drive. He wants his big men in the corners. He wants them spacing the floor. I think they'd be tremendous defensively. LeBron and Joel Embiid, with Embiid at his back, would be awesome. But offensively, I don't know if Embiid's ready to do that. I haven't heard him say anything that he is. So I don't think Philadelphia, from a basketball standpoint, is a very good fit at all. I think LeBron is intrigued by them because they have a really interesting team and they have lots of options. And I also think Brett Brown is really well respected by players in the league. But I don't know who's going to shoot the ball. I don't know how it all work. That to me would be fascinating. I'd love to hear from somebody with the Sixers organization to tell me what their pitch is about how they think those players are going to work together.
I 1,000% agree because you look at it and you say, oh my God, all this young talent, this is going to be great. But then you think about it, you're exactly right. You need shooters. We're going to wait around for Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz to become shooters.
Yeah.
It could be 40 by then and, retired.
All right, Brian, we got to let you go because we're running out of time. But right now you'd say the clubhouse leader is?
I'd say 51% LA, 40% Cleveland, 8% Philadelphia, 1% Field.
All right, so you're telling me there's a chance
nice.
it's Cleveland.
Did that even all add up to 100? I don't even know. That was impressive.
Let me just tell you, I couldn't tell you because
it's my understanding that there would be no math.
Yeah, exactly
but you nailed that. Brian, we appreciate you getting up this morning. Thanks, pal.
Thanks, Brian.
Take care, guys.
Golic
I tell you what, a great sports night last night. Yeah. No doubt about it.
and Wingo.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Is your home an ADT home? If not, you have to get ADT and help protect against break-ins, fire, and carbon monoxide. For a limited time, get ADT's lowest rate starting at just $28.99 a month from the most trusted name in home security. Go to ADT.com/podcast to take advantage of ADT's lowest rate.
With 36-month monitoring contract, early termination and installation fees apply. Excludes taxes and fees. Applies to traditional services only. Certain markets excluded. Licenses available at ADT.com.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Let's get back to the matter at hand, which is not the World Cup, sadly, but it is what's going on with the Julian Edelman appeal of his 4-game suspension. And as you sat down in here, you said something very interesting. You think he's got a good chance to win this appeal, as you give us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Why?
I think maybe I'm saying this because everybody else seems to think he has no chance, but and the New England Patriots, I'm told, also are going under the notion that they don't believe he's going to win the appeal, but that also doesn't stun me because they're not exactly overly supportive when guys are going through these types of matters. I would just point to the fact that first of all, what he's going to fight is the procedure, basically the chain of command of what happened to that test after it was administered.
The Ryan Braun defense, basically.
Yes, also the Richard Sherman defense. And this is in 2012,
right? He
the
won
way
it.
that he won.
Yeah.
Most guys who fight this stuff say, well, that's substance, I didn't know, and and ignorance is not an excuse when it comes to the NFL's PED policy. The other thing that I've heard out there right now is that Julian Edelman and the NFL have not been able to pinpoint what the substance is that he exactly tested positive for.
That sounds bizarre.
I don't get that. I need it explained to me. So how can you get suspended for that?
It's about the levels in his body. And that's, if the levels are out of whack, the NFL immediately says, we don't need to tell you what it was. We just know that you're doing something wrong.
So in essence, because as Jeff Darlington is with us, and that pins it down to a little bit what we were talking about earlier.
Right.
In essence, what happened was he tested for an elevated level of something.
That's right.
Okay.
And but we didn't know what was elevated?
We have not said that.
But I don't anticipate that to be the premise of his fight, because guys have gone down that road before and not won.
I can see that. Okay.
If he goes down with the argument of the administration of the test and the process that followed after it was administered, he has a much better chance to win. And now he has picked up some pretty high-powered attorneys in New York who have defended this type of thing.
Spyro.
Which, by the way, is another move that a lot of these guys don't go with. They'll wind up going in there with their sports agent, with all due respect, or good at negotiating contracts, but not necessarily good at defending the premise of a law. So or a rule, I should say. So I do think that he has a chance if he channels in his argument and he goes in with the idea that I'm going to win this thing the way others have won it in the past.
So that makes more sense to me. And again, it's all supposed to be private, so
I know
we wouldn't know what's elevated, because that's what we said. If something was elevated, then you can see, okay, then something is off if you have an elevated level of something in your system.
Right.
How about a timetable? Is there a timetable?
Not.
I know there doesn't need to be.
As you guys know, with these things, like the day everybody expects someone to walk out of the building in New York and say, "Hey, the decision has been made." But now they'll gather and discuss, and it'll probably, I would guess, about a week or two. But
so right around July 4th. Fantastic. This hour of Golic and Wingo is brought to you by La Quinta Inns and Suites. Book at LQ.com and win at business. Okay. The other thing that's going on here is that there's still some decent players that are out there that have not been signed, most notably Des Bryant. Where is the market for Des at this point?
I mean, I believe Des when he says that it's not going to be a problem for me to find a team, because truly his biggest thing, and I think teams realize this out of the gates after the Ravens offered him a multi-year deal and he turned it down, that he is extremely interested in getting a 1-year deal. For those that don't recall, he was waived by the Cowboys well after the first wave of free agency and all the money had been dispersed. His contract was such that he needed to put his agent needed to structure that contract so that it put it to the Cowboys that on day one of free agency, if they didn't want him, they should have cut him. But he didn't. So now he didn't get the chance to get that first wave of money. He wants to go out and prove himself with a 1-year deal, make the money next year. A team is going to be reluctant to offer him that 1-year deal until they know what they have when they get to training camp. So I do believe this is going to be something where he's not even in camp until, if I would believe it if you told me that Dez is not on a team week 2 of training camp.
So you're talking about waiting for an injury type of a situation?
Or a team that realizes what a problem they have at wide receiver.
Right.
Well, bigger question.
But I think he will be on a roster by week 1.
Bigger question then becomes, what do we think he is at this point?
I still think he's I think like the Green Bay Packers, I know Aaron Rodgers shut that down, but I think that was more out of matter of trying to defend his guy Jordy rather than actually whether Dez would be good for the team. I still think he's a perfect answer for a quarterback like that who can rip it in there and just let Dez go up and get it. He's still a monster. Like, I don't know why all of a sudden people have this perception of him that he is this lesser tier wide receiver. He's a monster when it comes to going up and getting footballs.
He is. Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive's Home Insurance, with insurance for cars, home, boat, motorcycle, RVs, and commercial vehicles at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and at Progressive.com. Jeff Darlington, our NFL reporter, in with us. There's the other thing that's sort of been an interesting trend here, guys, this offseason, and I'd like to get your take on it. Gene Steratore, who, by the way, was the name of my fantasy football team the year the NFL refs lock out the Fighting Steratores. It becomes the fourth referee, long experienced referee, to retire this offseason. Why do we think we're seeing so many of these guys that have been reffing for so long decide to step away from the game this one season?
Well, first of all, several of them have. I mean, we'll see what Hockey does.
Yeah.
But these guys jump into this broadcasting role.
Right.
And quite frankly, we've seen it from the coaching profession too. You can make more money and potentially do less.
And not get yelled at as much.
Unless you're Mike Carey when he got everything wrong all those times, and then they said, yeah, we need to move on from this.
But beyond that too, I mean, we're talking about some guys who are a little bit in their senior in terms of, being ready to try something new. I mean, just like anything else. I don't think there's any hidden thing here where the referees are saying this is just not worth it, despite the fact that, a lot of these guys throughout their career have been basically part-timers trying to make it on both sides.
Well, but to one thing there, it benefits them to be part-timers because they have other jobs that they do that pay them very well outside of the referee. The NFL years ago wanted to make them full-time referees, and the refs were like, no, we're double-dipping now. We're good. Yeah. So, I mean, I get what you're saying, but when you say they're part-timers, it was to their benefit that those refs were
without a doubt. And I can see these guys are getting older. I can understand that.
It's simply a matter of time and generation.
So do we think that there's going to be a drop-off in officiating this year? Because there have been 4 or 5 guys that have been around for a long time. Now, some people may have some issues with the way these guys called games, but now we're getting much less experienced guys going to be on the field.
Yeah, I mean, Gene and Ed are both probably very underrated in terms of because they've become sort of caricatures of themselves.
Correct.
But in terms of their acumen for the rule book, I mean, they're very underrated. I mean, that might be the most difficult job in football other than the quarterback.
And I heard that argument before. And my thought is, I mean, so these guys have been reffing forever. They know the rule book. I know a lot of guys in the NFL, 12-year players who are real good and 6-year players who are great.
Yeah.
So it's because a guy's reffing for 6, 7, 8 years. Does that mean that we're dropping off?
No, I was just curious because it just seems like it's been, it may be coincidental completely. It just seems like there's been a wave of very, very experienced referees this offseason that have said, yeah, I'm moving on.
Another situation going on that I don't know if is moving on anytime soon, Jameis Winston.
Yeah,
I mean, and that situation in Tampa Bay, I mean, where is this thing
guys, this is a weird one, and it could get messier. And without speculating too much or anything like that, what I can share with you here is that, first of all, the Bucs are in a really weird spot right now. And some might say, well, they drafted the guy. This is what they were potentially going to have to deal with. But the Bucs have loved him since he entered the building. And by the way, for the 2 years since this incident took place, he has been everything that they wanted him to be. And by the way, they also believed what he told them regarding this incident. And he had told them all along that he was in the Uber car with 2 other people. And if something happened, it wasn't him.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, one of the 2 other people that were supposedly in the car, his attorney is coming forward saying, no, my client says that Jameis left by himself.
And by the way, that person is in jail at this point.
Brandon Banks.
For a horrible crime, which is that of rape.
Yeah.
That happened when he was at a recruit at Vanderbilt.
So I understand all the people who are saying, why would we ever take the word of a convicted felon in this regard? Here's where it gets sticky. If all of a sudden this guy who clearly has a grudge because he's feeling like Darby and Jameis were sort of trying to throw this on him a little bit,
right.
If he's upset enough to just say, well, look, here's my Uber receipt from later that night. I wasn't in the car.
Yeah.
Clearly, here's my evidence. All of a sudden, that aspect of him being the convicted felon goes out the window. Now, I'm not saying that to be the case, but right now the Bucs are sitting back saying, we don't know what the NFL knows. We have no idea. We're being supportive of Jameis Winston. But if all of a sudden the NFL rolls out this evidence that clearly he was lying to the Bucs and the NFL, that becomes a big problem.
Huge issue.
Because there's 2 completely different stories out there. There's the one where Darby and said, look, there were 3 people in the car and Jameis was in the back seat with me. And then Banks has now come out and say, no, we put him in the car by himself.
Right.
Those are completely different stories.
Completely different. Joel Glazer, the co-chairman of the Bucks, has come out and said, not only do we believe what Jameis told us, but we are incredibly supportive of a guy who has been everything we wanted to be since the day he stepped into this building. If the NFL comes out with this report and there's nothing new in there and there's no evidence and it's just basically a suspension because we felt like something happened there,
he didn't report it to us in a timely fashion.
We all move on.
Yeah.
I think he serves the 3 games and everybody moves on. If in that report there is more to this, it becomes a much messier situation. So I think from the Jameis Winston's perspective and from the Buccaneers' perspective, they are keeping their fingers crossed that, Jameis knows in his mind what happened.
Right.
The Bucs are keeping their fingers crossed that they do not feel jaded.
He did get his Uber privileges revoked after this.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not exactly the court of law.
No, it isn't. But the NFL has said on more than one occasion, we don't need a conviction.
The NFL, that's exactly right. The NFL can punish him and give him the 3-game suspension. I'm just saying.
Talking about lasting effect.
The only problem here, the only lasting effect is if the Bucs find that Jameis lied. And as of right now, they have no reason to think so.
Florida man, you're the best.
I don't know about that, but let's golf later.
Done. Jeff Darlington with us. Hey,
By
Mike,
the way,
golf with us later?
No.
Okay.
By the way, a compass.
Oh, we have an update. Let's tease it. Tease it, Mike. I have good information.
I have to go.
No, you got to listen.
Golic and Wingo.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold. It's very interesting where that went.
There's a whole lot of weird always going on around here.
Mm-hmm.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio, ESPN News, and the ESPN app, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests appear on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, including our next guest. And if you are sick and tired of the Patriots winning 5 Super Bowls, you can thank our next guest for them not winning 5 more. Because one of his sons beat the Patriots in 3 AFC Championship games, and the other son beat the Patriots in 2 Super Bowls. That would be none other than Archie Manning, the executive director of the Manning Passing Academy, New Orleans Saints Ring of Honor, 2-time Pro Bowl winner, and the Secretariat of Quarterbacks in the NFL. Just making sure the bloodlines are strong. Archie, good morning. How are we?
I'm good, guys. Trey, Mike, how y'all doing today?
Doing well.
We're doing well. So the real question, Archie, the reason we have you on as the executive director of the Manning Passing Academy, Jerry Rice still said in the ESPN The Body magazine issue he's contemplating playing at 55. So when are you announcing your comeback?
I think all my eligibility is gone. So you stick a fork in me, I'm done.
So Archie, as you look at this camp, and we'll obviously get into your kids and stuff, especially Eli still and with the Giants this year, but 1996 at Tulane, you guys started this camp. About 185 players from Louisiana and Mississippi high schools attended this first camp. What was the thought process then of why you guys wanted to do this camp?
We just kind of wanted to help quarterbacks and receivers. And to this day, our mission, Trey, is not. We're not about trying to make guys into college or even NFL players, particularly our quarterbacks. We really just want to enhance the high school experience. And we think any youngster that chooses to play football that should have a good journey through high school. So we try to help them along the way with fundamentals. We do a lot of a lecture series. We talk a lot about being good teammates and leadership, especially from the quarterback position, and many other things that we address, and try to have a lot of fun with these kids too. We do have fun. We really have fun. They can't get enough. You know how hot it is down here, and we practice 3 times a day. We send them back to their room to get a rest after lunch, and we see them outside their dorms throwing the football. So great kids, and that we're so appreciative of their parents and grandparents who. So many of them drive them down here from all over the country. We had 46 states and Canada represented this year, and kids are just great, and it's a lot of fun. It's kind of wears you out after 4 days. We're all pretty tired, but we had a really good camp this year.
Well, you certainly do, Archie, because you get some of the best names. You mentioned high school players, but just some college quarterbacks that are there. Jalen Hurts from Alabama, Jared Stidham, who started at Baylor, now is at Auburn, Nick Fitzgerald from Mississippi State, Trace McSorley, Penn State, and Drew Lock out of Missouri, really considered the top quarterback prospect coming into this draft. What do these guys that are already in college, what are they getting out of this draft, out of this camp already?
Well, they're such a big part of our camp. If we have around 1,200 kids, we try to staff it 10-1. So that means we're going to have 120 coaches out on the field. And most of those guys, about 80 of them are high school and college, small college coaches who come back every year. Been coming 15, 20, 18, 20 years. So that's fun to have those same guys. But 40 of them are going to be college quarterbacks, maybe a couple of college receivers. And these guys, certainly they coach our kids, but we try to pay them back by especially Peyton and Eli and maybe some of our pro people who are part of the camp. Try to spend time with them. They work out 3 different times while they're here, and then have a competition on Saturday night. So, and I think the best thing, if you talk to them, Trey, the thing they get out of it the most is, they have some private sessions with Peyton and Eli, and they get to throw out on the field with some pro people looking over their shoulder. But I don't know. I think it's just kind of the 4 days together, with 39 other college quarterbacks and the friendships they make. A lot of them know each other from high school, but they make new friends. They're competing against each other. I think 10 of our quarterbacks this year were starters from the Southeastern Conference, so they're competing against each other on Saturdays. But yet here, they're spending 4 days together and having fun together.
Talking to Archie Manning again, Executive Director of the Manning Passing Academy, started in 1996 at Tulane. Is there a number of players that have started, that came in as high schoolers there and ended up playing in the NFL?
You know what, Mike? We don't track that. It's just because we really don't want the perception of recruiting, and we're not into 3-star and 5-star, so we really don't track our high school players. We can tell you our pro counselors through the years, there's over 40 guys that have been pro counselors here. They're on NFL rosters today, but we just don't track the high school players. Funny story. Remember when, I'd kind of like to forget it, but anyway, when Seattle played Denver in a Super Bowl, and in interviews prior to that, Russell Wilson said, "Sure, I came to Manning Passing Academy." Well, they called me. I'm sure he did, but we can go back and look at our records, but we just don't track them right there. So it's funny though. My media guy found a picture of some campers, about 10 of them on a knee, and Peyton was giving them a little talk. And the guy there on the front row I said, "That's Russell Wilson. I know that's him." I remember when Johnny Manziel came to our camp, under a lot of notoriety. He said he'd been a camper here twice. So I do remember some. I remember when Oliver Luck brought Andrew down to our camp. So Oliver had been a teammate, so I knew that. And now a lot of times the college kids that come in as counselors, when I talk to them and invite them to come, they say, "Mr. Manning, I was a camper there for 3 years." I said, "Oh yeah, I knew that. So, but I don't have those numbers.
Well, I'm just looking at an article. The article happens to be from 2015. I'll look for a more current one. At that point, there were 54 quarterbacks currently on an NFL roster that year who had participated in your guys' camp, including 7 number 1 overall draft picks.
Crazy.
So, I mean, from Jameis Winston to Andrew Luck, Sam Bradford, Matthew Stafford, Jamarcus Russell, it has really been incredible what you've done. And I mean, I would imagine, I know everybody's getting older, but no end in sight for this thing at this point?
Well, I don't know. I think we're kind of looking toward 20. This was our 23rd year, and we're already thinking a little bit, gosh, year after next, to look back at 25 years of this. I was thinking, again, Mike, I said we don't track these high school players, but I do remember our first year, those 185 we had on campus at Tulane, and we were reflecting on that this year. 2 of those campers that year were seniors in high school in Louisiana. One of them was Major Applewhite.
Wow.
And the other was Patrick Ramsey. So I was telling Eli, I said, "Eli, those guys, now they were campers with us. They're 40 years old now." And it's kind of funny when I've always run into people who say, "My son came to your camp." And now I'm running into, 30 and 35, 37-year-old businessmen, people somewhere. And I'm also where they say, "Oh, I came to your camp." The coach at Memphis last year, I was there for a banquet. I said, "Coach, you came," Mike Norvell. I said, "Coach, you came from Arizona?" He said, "No, I came from Arizona State." I said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "But more important, I was a 3-year camper at the Manning Passing Academy. Brandon Stokely was my hero. He was my coach and hero." And so it's kind of, as the years go by, it's kind of fun to hear things like that.
Well, it's awesome.
And also, I might mention, we had a really good bunch of quarterbacks this year. I mean, these kids, we started this to really help quarterbacks be better passers. Here in South Louisiana, back when Peyton was playing, my son Cooper's playing, they didn't throw the ball very much. The teams they played, you throw 7 or 8 passes a game. But, that's kind of changed throughout the country, the spread offense. I think it kind of began in Texas. But the high school kids, we've seen such improvement with them through the years when they come in here now because they throw more. But the college players as my grandson says, he can really spin it. I'm not sure this class this year is going to have as many number ones as last year. That was a pretty strong group last year, and we had all those guys here. This year may not have that, but it's still some guys that can throw it. I will mention too. You mentioned Drew Lock. He really is a good-looking player. Jarrett Stidham, great-looking prospect. We had 2 6'8" quarterbacks this year. I don't think we've ever had that. Cole Kelly is 6'8", about 270. He's vying for the starting position at Arkansas. And he's a Lafayette, Louisiana kid, so we wanted to have him. And there's a real impressive young man at Buffalo named Tyree Jackson, a really great-looking athlete. He's 6'8" also.
Well, listen, Archie, before we let you go, obviously Eli Manning still in charge of the New York Giants. It certainly seems like with their decision to pass on all those quarterbacks in the draft and go with Saquon Barkley, they feel like Eli's got a few more years left in him. How much does Eli talk to you about how much longer he wants to play?
Well, Eli feels good. He's been some knocking on wood here. He's never been hurt, and he takes good care of himself. He throws with these guys in our little exhibition on Saturday, and Eli doesn't back off from any of them. I really think Eli's throwing the ball better at 37 than he did at 27. I think a lot of it has to do with some stretching and some things he does to preserve his arm. So he feels good. Trace McSorley was telling what a great player Barkley is, and I think from their OTAs he's certainly proved that. So hopefully they can kind of put that season last year behind them and get back on track. It's a tough division, but Eli feels good, and he's looking forward to playing.
And I think that's the outlook that the Giants have taken with what they did in the draft. Arch, always good to talk to you, my friend. Enjoy the academy.
Thanks, Archie.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much. Appreciate having me on.
Golic and Wingo.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
AARP can help you become your healthiest self. It's why we offer health tips for your body and your brain. So take on today and every day with AARP. Learn how at takeontoday.aarp.
For the second year in a row, Patriots quarterback Tom Brady has been voted the number one player in the NFL by his peers. The list, of course, is part of the NFL Network's NFL Top 100, wrapping up Monday night. Tom Brady is number one.
Okay,
we have some issues with this.
So we
list,
can you can start killing the music on this one. We're going to get into this a little bit.
A little deep dive.
Here's the top 10. Number 1 is Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Antonio Brown, wide receiver of the Steelers.
Get that.
Number 3, Carson Wentz.
He was injured in December, did not play the entire season.
Number 4, Julio Jones.
No issues.
Number 5, Le'Veon Bell.
Probably top 5, yeah.
Number 6, Todd Gurley.
Okay.
Number 7, Aaron Donald.
Let's stop right there. We need to have a pause right now, okay? Todd Gurley is an exceptional football player.
Absolutely is.
One of the best, no question. But he's not the best player on his team.
So basically,
Aaron Donald is pretty impressive in the top team.
What's pretty impressive, though, according to this poll, in the top 7 in the league, 2 are from the Rams.
Yes.
Aaron Donald should be top 3.
Listen, without question, Pro Football Focus ranks every player every year. And they had him ranked higher than Tom Brady. And the only knock they had him, well, he missed a couple of games, missed some time because of training camp. That's the only thing they could find to knock on his game. Aaron Donald, it might be fundamentally the best player in football.
To finish the top 10 real quick, Drew Brees is number 8, Von Miller number 9, and Aaron Rodgers number 10. So
all good.
Aaron Donald, ridiculous. He's top 3.
Yeah.
I love Carson Wentz. I've gotten to do some things with Carson Wentz.
He's great.
Good dude, but way too early to put him at number 3.
Agree.
Way
Especially
too
when
early.
They finished the season without him. And I know that's not his fault, but, the body of work was smaller from him than anybody else.
He missed time and still was at number 3. Aaron Rodgers missed time and went from, I think, 6 to 10.
Correct.
Missing time with the broken collarbone. To me, Aaron Rodgers is one of the top players in the league, too, but he missed the time with the injury, so I understand what they're doing here. So I would immediately, you want Brady 1, that's fine. Antonio Brown, I can even live with at 2. I put Aaron Donald number 3.
Yeah.
I jump him all the way to number 3.
There's no way he's not the best player on his team. There's just no way he's not the best player on his team.
I could easily flip-flop Carson Wentz and put him at 7.
Yeah.
Put Aaron Donald at 3.
That's not a knock against Wentz.
Leave Julio Jones at 4, Le'Veon Bell at 5, Todd Gurley at 6, and then Carson Wentz at 7. And I'd be fine with that, though. I don't know. Drew Brees at 8. I don't know if I put Carson Wentz ahead of Drew Brees, quite honestly, as well. But Aaron Donald, he's top 3, top 2. Aaron Donald could have been listed number 1 in this, and I wouldn't have batted an eye.
Yeah,
not even blinked hard at that.
And in fact, again, Pro Football Focus rated him the number 2 on their list was Tom Brady. So Aaron Donald to them was the best player in football. Tom Brady was number 2. I have no problem with. Look, there's no way that Aaron Donald is outside of the top 5 players in football.
No shot.
And there's no way he's not the best player on his team.
Yeah.
Nothing against Todd Gurley. He's a great player. But Aaron Donald is ridiculously good. It just shows how skewed everybody is to offense.
Right.
And how they look at things. Does he score? Does he catch? Does he run? Does he do all these things? No one is better at their job in the NFL than Aaron Donald is better at his job in the NFL.
I agree. So we had, because I went to 11 through 20, top 10, we had 2 defensive players.
Yeah.
Aaron Donald and Von Miller.
Yep.
That was it, right? I believe that was it.
Yep.
Look at 11 through 20. Russell Wilson was 11. Luke Kuechly, another defensive player, he was sitting at 12. DeAndre Hopkins, a wide receiver from the Texans, at 13. Calais Campbell. I'm sorry, Calais.
Yeah. You know what?
Calais Campbell, the monster that he is, sitting at 14. Good for him.
Yep.
Gronkowski at 15. Khalil Mack at 16. So certainly you're getting the defensive players here. Jalen Ramsey coming in at 17. Roethlisberger at 18. Everson Griffin at 19. Another defensive player. And then Alvin Kamara at number 20. So more defensive players from 11 through 20 certainly than in the top 10. But that would be my biggest thing is Carson Wentz a little early be number 3 in the league, and Aaron Donald could easily put him at 1. I would no way drop him any lower than 3.
Yeah.
No way.
He's got to be there. Okay. So we have a lot to get into. Now, I would like to present you with the choice. Do you want to get into more LeBron watch now, or do you want to hear the story of the greatest story?
I think I need to hear this fight story that you've been teasing.
Okay.
Then we can get into LeBron.
Now, this has been a story of lore for many, many years, and there's a little backstory to it. Steve Marino has been a long-time journeyman player on tours, won a couple events, and done pretty well. The story starts that one day he was sitting in a bar in Florida, and Ernie Els walks in. And Ernie Els walks up to him, starts chatting him up, and Ernie Els has no idea that Steve Marino is also a fellow golfer, a fellow professional golfer on tour. And so much to the fact that Ernie Els says, "Mate, what do you do for a living?" And Steve Marino says, "Well, actually, Ernie, I'm a professional tour player, and I'm higher on the money list than you right now."
Oh.
And so that sort of broke the ice, and they sort of got going. And it turns out they found out they were going to play in the same event in Japan.
Okay.
And Ernie, being the nice guy that he is, says, "Hey, you know what? My plane is full on the way over there, but on the way back, I have room, so why don't you fly back with me on my private jet?"
From Japan?
From Japan.
Well, that's pretty sweet.
And Steve's like, "Yeah,
okay,
that sounds like a really good idea. So I'm saving me some cash."
Wow.
So the story goes that after the event in Japan, Ernie Els showed up and Steve's there in the clubhouse in the locker room and says, "All right, mate, you ready to go?" And so they get in the go and they have a few beers on the way over to the car.
Sure they do.
So they get on the plane. And they get on Ernie's very nice big plane because Ernie's a 4-time major winner and done a lot of great things and made a lot of money, can have a plane. So they have a few more beers on the plane. And then Ernie, being from South Africa, for whatever reason, all the South Africans like to make wine, right? They have vineyards.
Okay.
Gary Player does it. And he says, "I have some wine. Why don't we break out some of my wine?"
Okay.
So now they're breaking out wine on the plane.
They're drinking wine now.
And they're feeling pretty good about things. And at one point, Steve Marino has to go use the restroom.
Of course. All the drinking they're doing.
Drinking, you gotta empty the tank. So he goes to the restroom and he empties the tank and he opens the door to the bathroom and Ernie Els is standing there right in front of him.
Standing right there.
Right there.
Because he has to go to the bathroom
blocking the way.
Okay.
So Marino tries to move one way and get out of the way, and Ernie's just standing right there. So finally Steve says, "What's your deal?" And Ernie Els, without batting an eye, says, "And now we fight." And headbutted Steve Marino on the plane and began to wrestle him on the plane. And these are two big guys. Steve Marino's a big guy. Ernie Els is a big guy. And they're wrestling on the plane as it's flying in the air. They were wrestling so much that the pilot actually had to intervene and say, "Guys, you better cut this out or I'm going to land this plane and you guys are going to be in big, big trouble." The plane was moving that much. So eventually they sit down, and yet it continues again. And finally the pilot says, "I swear if you don't stop this now, I'm landing this plane and you guys are in real trouble." So finally they sit down, and eventually they doze off because they've
had a lot to drink.
Had a little to drink, and they obviously were exerting energy. And then the plane lands, and Steve Marino wakes up and is like, "What just happened?" And then he sees Ernie, and Ernie waves to him and says, "Okay, mate, see you later," and walks off the plane. So that had been a story that I had been told by PGA Tour pros on more than one occasion.
We thought it was a bit mythical.
We thought it was a bit mythical. However, in the No Laying Ups podcast this week, Ernie Els was asked directly about this event, and he confirmed it all. He says, quote, "It was just myself and Stevie coming from Japan to Palm Beach. We had a lot to drink. There was a lot to talk about, and we kind of hugged each other. It was a love fest on the plane." It's important to note Els was laughing when he references his hug. He went on to say, "Nobody got seriously injured. It was all in good fun. It was just what guys do, and there's a lot of testosterone running."
Just what guys do. Doesn't sound like Marino wanted any part of it.
I think Marino was not exactly sure what was going on there. But I had heard this story from a couple of people on the tour about, this story is true. This is the happiest day in the world that this has actually happened, that Ernie Els confirmed this happened.
So you're actually happy about this?
This is one of the great stories of all time. They're wrestling on a plane, but just that Ernie would say the words, "And now we fight."
Yeah, I don't understand. He just wanted to fight.
He just wanted to fight. He just wanted to wrestle. As a former wrestler, you can certainly appreciate this story.
But nowhere ever off the practice mat or in an actual wrestling match did I say, "And now it's time to fight."
In a plane.
Wow.
In a plane flying back from Japan.
That is something.
And just so you know, for years, when we would do the U.S. Open and the British Open, and whenever Ernie Els would step up, we would say, "And now he drives. And now he putts. And now he pitches." In reference
now
to,
we fight.
And now he fights.
Oh, you funny golf guys. Your little inside stories.
And now we know that the story is true.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. The Big Easy.
Not
so easy.
Don't ever be in close space with Ernie Els.
Actually, after this, I got into an elevator with Ernie at the 2013 U.S. Open at our hotel going up, and I was a little nervous.
I don't blame you.
I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
I was a little nervous.
I don't blame you one bit.
I stayed to myself, and we had a pleasant conversation. Then I wished him well. But and now we fight.
All right.
The story.
Good to know.
Is true. While you were sleeping, by the way, brought to you by Tempur-Pedic, loved by our owners and ranked highest in customer satisfaction with mattresses by J.D. Power. Find out why at TempurPedic.com. So we had our NBA insider Brian Windhorst on earlier today talking about what's going on because we are on full.
This is LeBron Watch.
Again, LeBron has until Friday at midnight to decide to opt out of his $30-something million contract. $35.6 million contract with the Cavs.
Like
so we had Brian Windhorst on, and we're at the stage now we're trying to gauge the tea leaves. And what Brian told us, our NBA insider, he says, while we don't know what the Cavs are doing should tell us a lot.
I don't think the Cavs feel really good about their position. And I'm not basing that on anybody telling me. I'm basing that on their actions. Because if you look at their actions for the last 11 months, they are making decisions like they expect LeBron James to leave. And maybe that's smart. Maybe that's setting themselves up to move on and not be in the abyss.
So we talked about this before the draft. They had to go into the draft. And again, they used that 8th pick to take Colin Sexton, who was the freshman point guard at Alabama. And almost scored 40 points in that game where they played 3-on-5 and almost won because of the suspensions for people coming off the bench. So I think that they felt like, and with what they did at the draft, look, we don't know, so we have to pretend like we got to build something for the future, and that looks like it's going to be Colin Sexton and Kevin Love.
Yeah, it does. And he also, Brian Windhorst, had said that the timetable may be a little quicker for LeBron here. His last two decisions were July 8th and July 11th, the two times, going to Miami and then coming back to Cleveland. And this time around, he said it could be earlier. He's actually taken his vacation earlier this year. Normally he goes like July 1st. He leaves for vacation, but he's already on his vacation. Doesn't want any pomp and circumstance this time around. Now, let's be honest. The first time he created all the pomp and circumstance with the TV show, and I'm taking my talents to South Beach. But I think it's one of those with time, age, and been there, done that that doesn't need to be done anymore. He just needs to make a decision. So Windhorst thinks that decision could come quicker than it has in the past.
And so, we asked him to handicap it, and he said 51% Los Angeles, 40% Cleveland, 8% Philadelphia, and 1% the field. And there's been a lot of speculation about going to Philadelphia because you have Ben Simmons, you have
Mark
Joel Embiid, you have Markelle
Fultz,
Fultz, and all that kind of stuff. But then from a basketball standpoint, I thought what Windhorst said was also very interesting about why Philadelphia wouldn't work.
I don't think Philadelphia, from a basketball standpoint, is a very good fit at all. I think LeBron is intrigued by them because they have a really interesting team and they have lots of options. And I also think Brett Brown is really well respected by players in the league. But I don't know who's going to shoot the ball. I don't know how it all work. That to me would be fascinating. I'd love to hear from somebody with the Sixers organization to tell me what their pitch is about how they think those players are going to work together.
And that makes a lot of sense.
No,
right?
It absolutely does, because the best shooter on that team, J.J. Redick, would probably be gone in the scenario of LeBron going there. Because you think about that when you just started saying, where should LeBron go? Because we heard this a lot during the season. Oh, my God, look at the young talent that Philadelphia has. He can go there and they can take over the East and LeBron can continue his domination in the East. But I get that, and I heard that point a couple other times as well. Ben Simmons, big ball handler, moves the ball, rebounds, dishes the ball well, can't shoot. Yeah. Right? Markelle Fultz, all of a sudden, the video when he hurt his shoulder coming back from that, how his shot had changed a little bit, and you saw a lot of his points early were layups or in the paint. So now you have LeBron who handles the ball. He needs shooters around him, and these two guys aren't really shooters. And you have no idea if or when they will develop into better shooters in this league. So from a talent standpoint, you do kind of go, wow, all that talent together, especially the young talent with the greatest, in the game today in LeBron. But you really break it down, it doesn't look like it's a great fit at all. Yeah. And they put up the campaigns, trust the process, finish the process, all that kind of stuff. So it really looks like it's coming down to LA or Cleveland. Yeah, right? So it does. It sounds like LeBron has either decided, let's go all in, to where I want to live. And hopefully the allure of the Lakers will find a way to turn this thing around and maybe make a run at the Warriors over the next couple of years. Or, as Charles Barkley told us when he was on, look, my legacy is secure. If I get another ring, that's great, but it's not going to change how people perceive me one way or the other. And maybe I ride this thing out and become, an iconic thing in Cleveland for leaving, getting championships, coming back, delivering a championship, and staying here because it's my roots. Right? Those seem to be the most two dramatic things. I mean, again, it comes down to his wants, his desires in this whole thing. Yeah. But the one thing we have to remember, though, is he is not a player who's coming to the end of his career. No. He's not in those waning couple of years where, his game isn't what it was. He's still the best player in the game. So that could certainly change his thought process of saying, I'm not ready to start to ride into the sunset because I still think I can be part of a championship team. And again, we'll begin to know that process by Friday, because if he doesn't opt out, that means he's staying in Cleveland. And then if he does opt out, we expect this to be a much shorter window, according to Brian Windhorst, about when we'll know when LeBron is going to make his decision as to where he's going to play.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or just ask your smart speaker to play Golic and Wingo. Plus, you can check the guys out live weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN News.